We're good. Now is the time set for the Compensation Committee of Polk County. Present is Mr. Norbert Hartman, Mr. Blair Wasson, myself, David Johnson, Greg Hansen, the Administrative Officer, and Nicole Panetta, the Recording Secretary. Members of the public are present. The next item on the agenda is to select a chairperson. Are there any nominations?
Like to nominate David Johnson as our chairperson.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion or selection of Mr. Johnson as the chairperson is unanimous. Next is to review and approve the minutes of February the 6th, 2024. Those minutes were previously provided by the recording secretary. Are there any comments?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right. We have been provided with an elected official salary memorandum. Mr. Hansen, would you like to review the memorandum?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, in your packet is a memorandum, and then at the end is a spreadsheet showing comparables and that we've used in the past for salary determinations and that. My recommendation is on July 1st, 2025, which is the new fiscal year, that the clerk, assessor, and commissioner's salaries increase by 3%. The sheriff's salary increased by 4%, with the caveat that we need to make sure that his salary is above anyone else in his office. And then we also I'm recommending an increase in the supplement or stipend that we give the district attorney, increasing that from $1,600 to $1,700, and then making no change in the treasurer's compensation, which is currently at $1,000 a month. The other part of the recommendation is language stating that elected officials' compensation shall include the services of the county's attorney for personal legal issues that arise from their role as county elected officials. So that's a request from Morgan Smith to have that in there to show that it's not an additional compensation to them. So with that, we've been doing this for a number of years. The compensation committee began and started in 1989, so it's 35 years that we've been doing compensation committee salary requests. You have a history of the last 10 years in your packet, showing what we did over the past 10 years. Again, I would like to note that the cooperation that we receive from our elected officials is very strong, very good, good working relationships. You can see that we compare pretty close with the surrounding counties, and by surrounding counties, I mean everyone else except Marion County. We have never tried to compare based on size in that Marion County in any of our labor unions or anything else. So they are excluded from our surrounding counties. I'd like to note that the CPIW for the West Coast is, as of December, is 2.8%. So this is a little above the current CPIW. We have lagged behind the CPIW many times, but we've also been above it. Not usually substantially, but have been above it a number of times also. If you approve the recommendations in my memo, you're going to see that the total cost to the county in the various funds, and I think all these positions show up in the general fund, is going to be a net of about $22,000 is the fiscal impact. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have involving any particular increase or the total package that I have before you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Hanson? Thank you for your report, Mr. Hanson. We appreciate all the time and effort you put in to give us a very detailed report on all the information necessary to make good decisions. At this time, although it's not on the agenda, I'd like to open up to public comment for 10 minutes or until there are no more comments. Is there any member of the public? Yes, sir. Please come forward and introduce yourself and then make your comment.
Good morning, gentlemen. I've had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Wasson and Mr. Hartman in the past. Mr. Johnson, I don't believe we've had an opportunity to meet before. I am E.M. Easterly. I live in West Salem, and my comments to this body today are, in effect, one citizen's view of the responsibility you three gentlemen have as volunteers in our Polk County. Good morning again. I have several questions regarding Mr. Hartman's recommendations.
You mean Mr. Hanson?
Thank you, sir. I stand corrected. This is a question personally to the three of you. Do you consider yourself a fair person? Have each of you gentlemen hired employees over the last 5 years? Have you increased any of your employees' compensation in the last 5 years? I'm not looking for an answer right now. I'm simply raising the issue. 9 years ago, after resolution 16-3 was adopted by the county commissioners, this board, the compensation board, agreed with Mr. Hanson's then recommendation to replace the elected treasurer's annual salary with a monthly stipend. And over the last decade, Polk County elected officials, with the exception of the treasurer, and that's shown in Mr. Hanson's report, have received compensation increases, both in salary and stipends. Last fall, Judge Wiles ruled that Polk County's resolution 16-3 was unlawful. His ruling reads, and I quote, "Resolution number 16-03 conflicts with and therefore preempted by Oregon statutes," unquote. He also wrote, "Resolution 16-03 is unlawful, invalid, and unenforceable," unquote. Since resolution number 1603, which was and is the foundation for the treasurer's stipend recommendation, is invalid, is it appropriate for this compensation board to support Mr. Hanson's current recommendation that again, be no increase in the proposed Polk County treasurer compensation in 25-26 annual budget?
Thank you, Mr. Easterly. Are there additional comments?
I found Mr. Hanson just handed me his report, And I see that the treasurer's position in Polk County is several 100% below what has happened over the last 9 years. I also read in his report that his responsibility, and we have a male member as the elected treasurer in this county, are the treasurer's duties. Those treasurer's duties are stipulated, as the judge said, by the statutes of the state of Oregon, not an unlawful resolution or revision of that resolution by the commissioners of Polk County. That can't make it any clearer. I believe there is a responsibility upon the treasurer to perform the duties that are identified under state statute. I'm not going to add more than that. I'm happy to share with you, as the board, the materials that I just read. I have, unless you wish to respond to or ask me other questions, I will simply hand this material to you.
If you could hand them to Ms. Panetta and.
I certainly shall.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Easterly. I appreciate your input. Just want to I gotta get back over. I want to make just a few comments about the initial questions that you asked. You asked 3 questions at the beginning of your comments. First, whether we consider ourselves fair people, and I can only speak for myself. I do consider myself a fair person. You asked if I've hired employees in the last 5 years. The answer to that question is yes. And if I've increased the compensation of my employees in the last 5 years, and the answer is yes, substantially in the last 5 years. Thank you for your comments about Judge Wiles' ruling. I'm sure County Council is well aware of the ruling, and I know County Council has made every effort to comply with the law, and we certainly will comply with the law, including statutes and rulings by the judges. Gentlemen, any other comments? Is there any proposal for action on the recommendations to the Budget Committee?
Compensation.
Or, I'm sorry, Compensation Committee.
I move that we accept them.
Second.
Further discussion? Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. That is all the agenda items on the agenda. The meeting is adjourned.